Therapist. I'm your host, Kevin,
And I'm your co host, Brian.
and you're now tuned in to Coder Conversations. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on tonight.
Absolute pleasure to have you on. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Trauma therapy, author. You've done a lot of different things in your life.
Yes, a lot of things. I started like I'm trained as a mathematician. Then I went into banking and technology and consulting, business consultant. And then I moved into art, changed countries, lived
Oh,
in
wow.
Europe. Yeah, like
What
yeah.
kind of art were you doing?
I was painting, sculpture. I got a degree in art in Spain,
Oh,
and
wow.
like yeah, wood was my main medium. So sculpture, but I paint with wood inside the paintings. Like so,
Oh, wow.
I included. I had a lot of fun doing that.
That sounds very interesting.
Yeah, and then ended up in New York City after a while, right? Like several countries and several cities, and then New York City has been the longest, and I'm here in the middle of Manhattan. And then I found Buddhism. Yeah, like spirituality first. I became a healer in India, and then Tibetan. Philosophies and all that, became a Buddhist, and that's when I decided to shift into mental health because I realized that even the most like serious meditators were not able to move on enough or fast enough because of the emotional blockages or
Right.
difficulties that they had. So I really felt inclined to know more about that in order to help people to make progress because it was incredible to see how much they wanted and how much they tried and still struggled big time. So religion alone doesn't make it. Really, like spirituality is a huge component of healing, but not in isolation. You need to understand also how your nervous system works and how relationships work and things like that. So I have written two books. I'm writing a third. I teach. I talk. I have like um, directed like a program on trauma. I
Where
go
do you teach?
to several places right now. I'm teaching at NYU and at University in Madrid, and a
Oh,
school
awesome.
in Peru and another in Mexico. So I teach in different.
Hmm.
Now with this online thing, we are everywhere, right? So I
Yeah,
teach in.
no, NYU. NYU is a really great school. I grew up in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and now I'm living in Long Island, New York. So I'm just a little
Yeah,
pretty
maybe.
close, a couple islands over from where you are.
But yes, we can have coffee. Like you
Yeah,
are
right.
Texas. I'm not that sure.
Texas, yeah, I don't know about Kevin.
Yeah, it's a little far.
Yeah, but yeah, that more or less. So now I'm very interested. So I worked in a city hospital in the Bronx and an agency in Harlem, and I faced a reality that I never dreamed of. Like forget about the seekers, right? The Buddhists that had difficulties. No, I really confronted real difficulties, real emotional problems, and that's when I felt like completely unprepared for that. And then I started like preparing myself to understand trauma when trauma was really at the beginning and not well understood. So I combined as much as possible. So I did a lot of meditation and then I got into neurofeedback
Oh, right.
because,
Okay.
right? Because neurofeedback promises kind of the same results as meditation, but 10 times faster or something. So I really got into that. And what I found is the understanding of the brain and the nervous system. And that was like a really completely changed my path because now I really understand. I put all those things together, even systems theory, and make more sense of our difficulties.
So you're kind of connecting the dots from various different disciplines, it sounds like.
Yes. Well, I was saying that I'm a mathematician, and I was even like a programmer at some point. And yeah, when you think systemically, right, like you understand the correlation and how things get together and make sense, one affects the other. And that has helped me a lot, that background in, yeah, because I don't follow the traditional medical model that separates things and never puts them together, right? Like the doctor that sees your stomach never sees your lungs, you know? And yeah, that in like I have moved into that direction. My first book is called Traumatization and Its Aftermath, and it's a systemic approach to treat and understand trauma disorders. Because yes, if we think systemically, then we understand that memories are not our only problem, and this regulation is not the only problem either. There's many other areas that get affected, and if we don't take care of them, we don't attend them, we never feel completely like back into ourselves.
So, like, what are some of the key takeaways that you found during your time, dealing with the mind and researching traumas? Like, what are some of the big ideas that you've come across?
Beautiful question, because the mind is everything, right?
Yes.
The world is mental, says the Hermetic tradition. So the universe is mental. Everything is mind. Everything is mind. And what I have discovered is that some of the, what would I say, blockages, or yeah, roadblocks for improvement, is that kind of nobody teaches us how to deal with our mind. Our thoughts is not only the only thing that the mind does, right? Perception is extremely important, and imagination and creativity and curiosity and many characteristics that we need to include in the model in order for us to have more um, like to affect better, or more importantly, our nervous system. So our biology follows the instructions of the mind, and we don't know how to work with our mind. So if we put the two together, and we learn how to speak to our nervous system, using our mental capacities and our mental space, then we get much better results.
I see. So what initially got you into psychology?
The helping the Buddhist. That was the blockages, the emotional blockages that I discovered. Well, in Buddhism, there is something very. There are several lineages and traditions and ways to teach it, but in general, I noticed that in many religions, including Buddhism, emotions were something undesirable, something that you should not entertain or put too much attention to. In Buddhism, they call them delusions, right? In other traditions, maybe they call them demons, right? Fight with your demons, or like. But emotions are as natural as thirst, or as what, fear,
Right.
right, or whatever you want.
Right.
So that was like a very illuminating thing, that said no, that they we need to understand them both and put them together, emotions and the mind, because the emotions organize the way we function internally and prepares us for action. But so we need to make friends with them, we need to understand them better, and learn how to have a saying on our emotional life. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's interesting that you mentioned the point about let's say I'm a Christian, so you mentioned demons. So like what I've known is like you can have a variety of thoughts, and some of them are incredibly negative, some are positive, and they can be back to back. So it kind of leads me to believe that just because a thought comes into your mind, it's not necessarily you, but what is you is the thought that you hold on to and you like really integrate with. Like you could think something negative, but you just let it flow out your mind. That's so the source of thoughts is not necessarily us in my opinion. It's just what you choose to embrace when those thoughts come into your mind. What do you think about that?
Mm, it's a little bit controversial because yes, it is you. It is you, and something that but like that part. So I agree with you, but it's just how we organize those ideas, because we need to be not responsible, but at least um, aware that those negative thoughts are as natural as everything else. Doesn't make us bad people. Doesn't They are not demons. They are not external. They are part of the human nature. Like let's say envy or jealousy or resentment or whatever, right? They are there. They have a function. And when we understand that function and we participate in this in the function that they want to, they are trying to prepare us for the future. Emotions are always anticipating what can come for us to be better prepared. So if they are telling us, I'm jealous because I don't have what they have, that means I need to work harder in order to have what they have and have less jealousy. you know, or envy. So instead of saying no, I'm becoming a bad person. No, no, no. Don't judge yourself. Just find the motivation to be prepared for the future in a way that you don't entertain those emotions. Don't take over. The problem with emotions is when they take over and control you, and then that's problematic, because then you
Right.
anticipate that everybody is going to be better than you and that you are a loser, and then you become like blah 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 blah, and that blah 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 is what really makes us suffer, not the emotion itself.
Yeah. And then there's the saying, no thought is real, no feeling is real inherently, that we're sort of like grabbing on, kind of like Kevin saying, like we grab onto certain thoughts and we sort of make them ours.
Mhm.
What do you think about that?
And where those thoughts come from?
Yeah, no, that's one way to look at things.
Well, that the theory, I like the theory, and it's kind of proven mathematically, so I believe in it, about how we co-create our mind. The mind is not only mine, my thoughts are not only my thoughts, are being co-created. Right now, I'm talking to you, and we are co-creating a reality, and you are making me think, and like with your thoughts, like are redirecting my thoughts, right? So we are co-creating a mental energy, or this flow of energy and information in between both, that then we embody with our discernment or our reflection. So when you talk about that, I actually, yes, I ask you where these thoughts come from. What are the people that are influencing me the most? Because something that is happening, and maybe I'm going to touch something dangerous here. If you stop me if it's too dangerous. But the co-creation of the mind means that we are highly influenceable. We start believing in something that we hear, and we don't know they were our thoughts, or we assimilated the thoughts and then made us ours. And sometimes we get into passionately about believing in something that wasn't there, that was created for us. And they convince us that, for example, trauma, that we are broken, that we are victims, that we are powerless, that has been like a narrative that has been building up, that has really debilitated the psyche of many millions of people, that
Right.
believe that suffering is, oh my God, that makes me a victim, and somebody needs to pay for that, when in reality,
Now, something like trauma, is that sort of like locking in emotions or locking in certain thoughts that are revolved around that specific trauma? How does that work, in your opinion?
so distorts perception of what is happening right now, because it taints it with what happened before. With this anticipation, the brain is always anticipating. With this anticipation characteristic of the brain, like trauma informs the brain that the world is difficult or dangerous or threatening, and therefore, like, prepares my brain to perceive danger in order to prepare me not to die, because survival is one of the most important, or the most important, tasks of the brain. So,
Sure.
right? So in order to prepare me, it's going to anticipate that that person wants to attack me, that person wants to steal from me, that house is going to fall into my head, whatever. And that distorts perception. That's one. Emotions are not, what is the word that you used?
Oh, emotions are not a fact.
No, you mentioned a word about like restrained or something. Emotions, no, like the emotions become actually these strong forces for action. So with that distortion about the future, so fear becomes huge and detects all the things that can go wrong and can threaten me. So therefore, emotions become much more explosive, let's say, or much more like, they send the signals to the brain to react in ways that are normally disproportionate to the reality. So I start running if I see a roach. I say, as if the roach is gonna eat me, right? Because
Yeah.
I learned to fear roaches. I was in a conversation today with a person that told me that her mother had diabetes, or the grandmother, I don't remember who, and she looked at her in the morning. She looked at her foot. I think she was sleeping like a rocking chair or something, and it was bleeding, and it was because a rat had eaten 2 or 3 of her toes.
Oh
I
my
said,
God.
"Oh my God, please don't tell me those stories, because I'm gonna fear rats now even more than before, right?" So with that type of story, I see a rat and I can start running, right? So the emotions become like this preparation of action preparation to act in ways that protect me. If I need to scream in order for others to come and help me, or if I need to take a gun and start shooting, like, like, I'm exaggerating, but not always. Like sometimes these overreactions that come from having been traumatized for something really dangerous is how my system becomes organized. So that's a problem with trauma. But I'm talking about real trauma, right? I'm not talking about what we are calling trauma nowadays, that is everything. You look at
Right.
me ugly, like, oh, I'm traumatized now.
People are very sensitive these days, I've noticed.
I'm not talking about that trauma. No, that is not trauma. Trauma is something real that happens in our system when we are in danger, in real danger.
Like PTSD, being in a war zone.
That's the disorder that, yes, like that is real trauma. And even then, being in the war zone, not everybody that is in the war zone gets traumatized. They don't have trauma, all of them. Like, the event is traumatic, but not everybody gets ill. Then not everybody gets PTSD. And
Right.
very interesting, right?
So something interesting about emotions I found is like it's contagious. If somebody's feeling some way or several people are and you're around them, somehow you start feeling that way. And same with like even dialects. Like you can have one sort of way of speaking, then you move to another city, across the country, and then you start speaking like that. So like where do you think that comes from? Like, why do we kind of pick up on what the rest of the herd does and just sort of integrate with them?
There are several parts of the brain that participate in those things, like the language, for example. Like, I lived in Spain for a while, and when I go to Spain, it takes me 10 minutes to start, like, talking like them. I don't do the tone, but I do the rhythm, right? Because of the mirror neurons. I immediately start, like, imitating, but without
Yeah.
intention, without awareness, imitating what I receive as information, right? Why? Because we want to identify with the other. As mammals, we need to belong, and belonging is super important. So sometimes we start, like, moving like the people in front of us, or etc. That is one part. The other part about the emotions, that is, more has to do with hypervigilance. Like, we become much more aware of everything, that and then we kind of absorb those things, because we are kind of too open, right? Too open, and we get, we feel the anger, even if we are not angry, or we feel sad
Right.
and don't know why, right?
Right.
There are even more things that are less easy to understand, that when um, whole syndromes get, like, full of symptoms, people start getting from others without even knowing them. Like, even in towns, in a whole town, having similar reactions to. You remember, like, for example, shell shock. Shell shock. If you see the movies about shell shock, we don't see people having those type of reactions nowadays. Even
Right.
going to the front, right? And that's why they thought it was because the shell of the bomb, like, attacked their body. But no, it was a contagiousness of symptoms, that they were very scared, but they just started, like, jerking, like, doing movements weird, like, yeah. So yeah, that is harder to explain, why we can get so influenced by other people, even if we are not in their presence. Mhm.
So just like how we kind of take on some of the emotional states and even thinking of people around us, how important is it to carefully cultivate who we allow in our presence, like who we hang around with and socialize with? Because can they also be a source of trauma, like unhealthy, toxic people who are you're constantly around?
Their actions can be damaging, not their energy. Like, so we were saying that the mind co-creates, right? So yes, we are in exchanging information energetically with the mind, right? But that doesn't mean that they are gonna make us behave in ways that we don't want. No, that's not really the case. Like, affect the nervous. The secret is the awareness. You can be in the presence. I mean, I'm a psychotherapist. I treat people of all sorts. People that are, like, very sick and or very negative or very pathological, very disconnected, and that doesn't mean that I become like them, right?
Right.
The secret is to have the awareness of the exchange, the protection that you need. If you see a person is toxic, let's say, well, I'm going to protect myself. I'm just going to observe them, but I'm not going to allow that energy to get into me, because I'm protecting by my awareness and my presence in compassion. For example, if I feel compassion for the person, that is a protector, is a way to protect myself from their energy to get into me.
So let's just say you didn't have that awareness. You think that their energy could get into you if you were not aware of these techniques to kind of protect yourself. Like I know, a lot of people in the medical field, they see really gruesome things, and if they're not mentally prepared for it, it can make them depressed, for example.
Sure, sure. Yes, that can happen. If you don't have the awareness, many things can happen. Um, like I was talking about being influenceable, right? Many things can. And somebody says, yeah, those people want to kill you. Let's kill them first. Well, that can really affect the perception of reality, because you are co-creating that fear, right? That fear and that perception of the other can really get. But you need to, the difference. So we have very primitive functions. We are still inside of us there. That's why I was saying that there are no demons. They are primitive reactions or emotions or feelings that we still have um, from from the days we were not humans. We carry in our brain the structures that are very basic, that need to act when we are in danger. And if that means killing other person, we will kill another person to protect our kids or ourselves. Like we
Right. So
like
would that be called the reptilian brain? Is
right.
that sort of what you're getting at?
Yes, that's how they call them, right? Like
Okay.
yes. So we have those primitive impulses and needs that are there for a reason. Everything in us is trying to protect us from dying or from like enemies or etc. Danger or pain or all that stuff. So, but the problem is not to have the awareness that they are there. We have the reptilian, then we have kind of more mammalian functions. And these mammalian functions have to do with belonging to the tribe and protecting each other, and like all those emotions that have to do with alliance, with affiliation, and all those things, right? So if you are gonna ex- expel me, I cannot allow that, because I feel as threatened as if you have a gun in your hand. Like isolation for mammals is as dangerous as an attack. So that's why we get desperate and we fear abandonment, and we need like the love of the other, and a breakup can feel so significant and all that stuff. But going back to the awareness, we are lucky enough to have developed other capacities that are beyond, um, like are incredible. The human brain is incredibly powerful. This part of us, the prefrontal cortex, right, that is mostly human, maybe a couple of other animals have it, but mostly human, allow us to have awareness, allow us to assess whether that person is an enemy or is just like an angry person that has nothing to do with me, or is
Right.
having a bad day or whatever, or looks different than me or whatever. And I have the capacity to say, oh no, oh, I thought it was an enemy, but it's not, you know? And
So,
that is our best ally. And that's the one that says, oh, that person wants to influence me. Or, oh, that person is angry, but I don't need to be angry like them. Or etc. etc. And thus, this is the part that we need to exercise all the time in order to get stronger.
so I know you've been in the field for a while, dealing with all kinds of different people. There's like these archetypes of personality, like Myers-Briggs, like 16 personality types. Do you find that that's pretty accurate? That there are patterns that people fall into, or do you usually find people completely unique and different from each other?
Um, yes and no. Again, like everybody's unique. Everybody is unique. You have a family, the same mother, the same father, the same grandparent, the same house, the same everything, and all the kids are different, right?
Yeah.
They adapt differently, they develop differently. Why? Because nature and nurture, like some things are genetic, some things are like energetic. I don't know. Sometimes traits have nothing to do with genetics, but one kid is more curious than the other, and the other one is more sporty or athletic than the other, etc. Right? So traits, and then the circumstances, because even those five kids in that family, one went to one school, one had a different teacher, like the group of classmates that each one has, like had a different influence in each one of them, etc., etc. So we are like really malleable when we are born, and our circumstances start modeling us as plastilin, and then we become kind of us, right? But we never
Right.
lose the capacity to continue modeling ourselves.
So how would you say that we cultivate greater sense of awareness of ourselves? What's the one main way that we might work on something like that?
So mindfulness has become so famous because of that. That is one of the best and fastest or most reliable ways. But now mindfulness is so abstract. Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm just going to take a nap, or I'm going to talk to God, right? Like, you don't know what they mean by the practice, because now mindfulness is everywhere. I'm I prefer something that I call awarefulness, right? Because you don't need to sit and meditate. What you need is to be present. What you need is to be aware of what is happening. How are you feeling? What is happening around? What is the influence? You were, Kevin, asking, right? Oh, this person is influencing my mood, so I'd rather go out instead of continuing like getting affected, or whatever you decide to do. First is awareness, then is decision making. That is all in here. And when we have this muscle stronger than the other muscles, right, that the structures of the reptilian or the structures of the mammalian, when we have this stronger and active and present, we have more capacity to make progress, to decide how to react, assess what is dangerous and what is not, etc., etc. All the things that the executive functions have.
So like we're kind of in an economic climate where, a lot of people, they might be losing their jobs. There's a lot going on in the world, and that can cause people to become like hopeless or depressed. So, how do you kind of coach someone who's feeling, that their life is out of their control? How do you like help recalibrate them to get them back on track and not get too affected about things that's outside of their control?
Well, that it takes years, right, to program this attitude of this person, but has to do with the meaning that people attribute to their circumstances, right? If if I think that losing my job is the end of me, like you say, hopelessness and defeat, and then my nervous system is going to shut down, and I'm just going to see everything with that lens, with the lens of like I have no I don't have a chance here, and my kids are going to start like getting more anxious and more depressed and more disconnected and more absent. And now I don't notice my emotions, but like all in a sudden I scream or throw things. So there is a disconnection in between. So how do you control that? Is well, a lot of work in reorganizing um, what you can reorganize internally, because you cannot affect the external, right? You cannot change the world, but
Right.
you can find a different meaning, like oh, maybe I'm gonna find a new call or a new profession or a new way to relate to my kids, or I'm gonna change my house, or whatever decisions you can make in order to continue giving meaning to your life, instead of just falling into the the defeat and the hopelessness. That is not easy, because the nervous system takes over and kind of distorts the capacity to see what you are able to do or not do. And that's why you need to be in therapy or reading books or making exercises, like learning how to calm yourself, learning how to be grounded, how to be centered, how to be present, how to like working on yourself internally, because the external world is all consuming, right?
Right.
Has to be a lot of internal, and normally we don't have time for that. We don't have time to do therapy. I need to find a job, right? I need to save my house, etc. But a balance in between the two, and not allowing those fears or those emotional drags to sink you in desperation or hopelessness.
So like I read a book a long time ago. It was from his name was Viktor Frankl. I believe his book was called The Search for Meaning, and he was in a concentration camp. And the big takeaway from that was people who were able to find meaning despite the very tragic circumstances. They had a much higher likelihood of surviving. So I think that just attests to the power of thought and the ability to frame things in a more positive way.
Yes, absolutely. I love Frank. It's not only framing, you have to embody those thoughts, right? So you have heard that, oh, the body, 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 body. Well, the body thing, yeah, like sometimes people think that, oh, it's in there. No, it's not in there. It's the embodiment of the thoughts. Is that make
Right.
systemic, is making it flow. It's an experience that is in your left side of the brain and in your right side of the brain. It's an experience that fires up all the structures that need to be fired up in order to for you to really believe in those thoughts. The thoughts alone, just rephrasing alone, doesn't make the trick. That's what the mind needs to contribute. It needs to be something much more experience, the experiential component of those thoughts, right? Like, I have hope. I have hope. I hope. No, I need to have hope, to feel hope, to embody hope, to connect with hope, to all the levels that you can in order to. Faith, for example, is something I say. If I have a client that has faith, it's going to be much easier for me to work with them than somebody doesn't. And it's not,
Really.
yeah, it's a super resource, because the brain is and the mind are connected. But it's not what they believe in, what they have faith on, is that they know how to activate those circuits in the brain that makes you more powerful, that produces the right neurotransmitters, that motivates you to continue, right? Because if we are just full of stress hormones and cannabinoids and opioids and all that, we don't find the motivation, right? So if we believe that we can, doesn't matter what, you believe and you embody that faith, then you can go on.
It kind of reminds me of a quote from Henry Ford. He said something to the extent of, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Exactly. I love it. Yeah, absolutely.
So, do you feel like our emotions mostly derive from our thoughts? Like the thoughts come first, and then our emotions flow from that, or do our emotions just come and then our thoughts are usually a reaction to our um, our emotions?
Well, I was just in Portland in a conference of the International Society for Trauma and Dissociation, presenting a model, a new model that I'm developing to exactly respond to your question. We have always been asking what is first and what dominates what. Well, the new theory, like with neurobiology as a foundation, is that we are building up our emotions all the time, because our emotions are this way to organize our reality and prepare for action. Prepare for action. The emotions prepare us. And the seed of the emotion is physiological. So when there is something beautiful, like you go out and see the cherry blossoms, your your body has a reaction, anticipates. For example, one person may sneeze, right? The other person would be in awe. The other person would be grateful. Well, all those things are seeded in our neurobiology, in our physiology. So it has a response. And from that response, then we find a name, and then we have a valence, is pleasant or unpleasant, is desirable or not desirable, etc. And from there, we go into instructions. This means that I should cry, or this means that I should go home because I'm gonna get sick. And then that is the instructions that the emotion will carry, because it's preparing us for action, right? So anger is normally preparing us to fight, to protect ourselves from somebody that we assume are abusing or
Dangerous in some way.
right. So that starts with that detection of the nervous system, of there is something in here that can put you in danger, and it starts preparing the action of attacking, right? And that is the emotion of anger that builds up. So, and there is something that is called the prediction error. So the brain is always trying to check whether my prediction was correct or incorrect. So if my prediction was correct, yes, this person was abusing me. So my anger acts in accordingly and stops the guy or yells at them, don't do that to me, whatever, and we are safe. But if the prediction error is wrong, so I yell and this person still punches me, or is still stealing from me. So then I have to consider that emotion, and anger has to be modified. So now I need to punch him also, not only screaming or raising my voice, I need to punch him. So now my anger has as instruction punching, because that's the way to protect myself. So that is how emotions are always being updated, because they are always trying to confirm this error, this anticipated error.
So let me ask this, in terms of meditation, what would you say the main goal is for most people who meditate or pray regularly?
So there are many different purposes or benefits, and there are different types of engaging with meditation. Like one is, for example, calming your nervous system. That would be the most generic and useful, right? Just breathing in and out, to balance. Breathing has the capacity to help the nervous system getting to harmony, right? To rebalance it. So that would be in one side of the spectrum a nice result benefit from just count your breathing in and out 10 times, right? And again and again and again. In the other extreme, it is enlightenment, right? It is like leaving the fantasy or the distortion of reality that we live in. Like if we go all the way there, you don't exist, I don't exist, everything is like a delusion, right? So in the middle, there are hundreds. For me, the most useful is the presence, is being present without judgment, present and aware. Not only present, I'm here, no, present and aware. I'm looking at you, I'm looking at Kevin, I'm looking at my environment, I'm looking at like the time. I'm aware of everything that is happening because my ego is not in the room. So it's so, yeah, the presence is being here fully without judgment, with the best of intentions, and connecting, changing, because this I know that is going to go to many people, and I really want to share with people how to feel better, to be more empowered, to suffer less, right? And that intention gives me the capacity to forget about many restrictions and just be aware of the questions and my answers. So kind of that is part of of meditation that I really love. But you don't need to sit and close your eyes to develop. That's what I was saying. The awarefulness. You need just to practice awareness. I'm here. I'm not thinking in, oh, what are they gonna think of me, or oh,
Right.
right, or do I look good? Or the blue look? No. I'm not thinking about that. I'm not thinking about the future or the past. I'm here just trying to focus on what I need to do right now.
So bypassing the ego,
Right.
is that kind of what you're getting at?
Right. That's a good
So-
way to say it.
So, like, we're in a age where AI is a really disruptive technology. People are really engaging with these chatbots, for example, and there's this like concept is called like AI fueled delusion, where the AI rarely gives pushback, but people are so involved with this this AI because it's kind of affirming everything that they believe in. So like how do you think we should protect ourselves in this sort of era where you have access to something that can always affirm you and not give you pushback?
AI.
Good question.
I love it and I fear it, right? Like obviously I'm in awe about the human capacity to develop things like AI. Obviously, I'm always impressed by our potential of doing. Look at the world, the buildings. There's somebody right now in the space, right? Like the same as going to vacation or Epcot Center, right? Like we are incredibly powerful in terms of what we do. We don't understand what we do, but we go and do it. And AI is one of those. How to manage it in order not to fall into the trap of what AI implies? Well, knowledge. Knowledge sometimes is useful. Knowledge, knowing how these machines learn, for example. Like they learn, they have average information, right? If there are 1 million people saying one lie, AI is gonna tell you that lie as if it's true because 1 million people believe in that lie, right? That is how
Right.
AI learns. And that people don't know that. People are thinking that AI knows and has the truth and the right answer above all. But no, it's learning from the
From
information
us.
that is there, from us, right? and we don't have all the truth.
Right.
So the chats that learn from the internet, for example, oof, my goodness, the amount of misinformation that the chats are learning is it's outstanding. It's incredible. So you
Right, because they feed these large language models things like Reddit.
right.
So you can only imagine some of the stuff that's being fed into these AIs through Wikipedia, Reddit, Google in general,
and,
etc.
and blogs and like publications that are there from people that just write whatever they want to write, even if they don't have the information, because now we can create content like we are like making popcorn, right? So that is the danger of AI, for example, to convince us of things that are completely wrong. And we need to know that AI is gonna give us information that is garbage, right? For example. So that's what you do in your blog, like in your podcast, you share that information. No, don't buy everything that you hear because it can be completely twisted. So that's one. Another one, and this is another dangerous territory, but it's happening, unfortunately, that the delusions or the you call them what do you call them
But like, yeah, delusion works.
right, okay. um, the delusion is normally hand on hand with substances that we take, and it's happening right now. There is a crisis in the world of psychosis and psychotic breaks on young people, that they combine it with AI and really believe in great, like really crazy things, and that is very dangerous, right? Because the combination of the substances, especially if they start consuming, for example, weed early, the brain stops developing, so parts of the brain stop developing, and they have this tendency of believe things that are not there, right? Because that's what the substances do, alter reality or the perception. And then if you combine it with the AI, it's an explosive yeah, combination. It's really, it could really
Wow.
drive you crazy. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know one thing that I've noticed, me being in software, people are giving the AI a level of authority that it doesn't have. And the danger in that is, let's just say, even in fields like psychotherapy, instead of talking to a professional, they're getting diagnosis from an AI and they're following that, and they don't know if it's valid or not. It sounds good enough, but, you
Yeah,
know,
terrible. Yeah, I have had clients that every with a different diagnosis, you know, and they really like, yeah, and they have been creating, what would I say? I don't like the word insanity, but it's sometimes it's kind of what they create, because being popular or being having many likes and followers is a motivator for you to convince yourself of something that wasn't there before. That's what I was talking about, the influencing your brain and your mind, right? Like I have a whole system of alters, and I don't remember what I did when I was in, like that can go. It's not that doesn't exist. Some of those fragmentations exist, but not in the way they are portrayed in the channels, right? They can be misinterpreted or yes, misdirected and give the wrong impression. But then, as we were talking about the contagiousness at the beginning, like I start acting like that, and then I start like behaving in that way, and that convinces me that that's me, and it creates like a delusion that is pretty damaging and debilitating.
I think also that's interesting is we're in an increasingly digital society, and we kind of talked about the effect of people on other people, but we're in a society now where people are becoming increasingly isolated. So what are some of the effects that you've seen from people avoiding interactions with other people?
Well, COVID had a lot to do, I think, with it, right? Like change the organization of relationships. We now do everything in our chair with our screen. And do I really need to go out and spend money dressing up? I don't know. Pretend or start competing again with this person, exposing myself to rejection, like blah blah blah, right? No, I'd rather not. I don't even take that chance, and then I forget to relate to people, right? I really forget those skills on and other ones that are even more important that happen much more in live interactions, which is the compassion, the joy, the generosity. Those things are easier to practice when we are in person than on a screen, right? And then we forget to use that muscle, and that muscle is extremely important for us to have these connected, really well connected, and having uh, like experiences that are not only emotions, but something that like feels more fulfilling, more like gives us more satisfaction and connection. The connection is
Right.
extremely important, right?
Yeah, one thing I've noticed with, let's say, Gen Z or just younger people in general, recently I went to a doctor's appointment, and in the in the waiting room, instead of people sitting around having small talk or, exchanging glances, you just have the kid head down in the tablet, headphones on, totally not with you there in the room. What do you think about that?
But that connects with the awareness, right? There is no awareness. There is no awareness. There is just a focus, very specific, trying to like with yes, it's lack of presence, right? There is no presence. There's that muscle is not being practiced because it's very cognitive. It's very like attention to certain topics that I like. That if you browse, for instance, I like browsing. It's not that I am against browsing. I like browsing. Yeah, of course, like it's fun. If I take like 5-10 minutes to browse, right? Not an hour or two, but in 2 hours, if you have ever tried to browse 1 or 2 hours, you will notice that you didn't learn a thing, that you don't remember most of them, right? That are like, there is frustration because if you want to find one that you saw that you like, you won't find it again, etc. And then if you interact, you are interacting to create a type of communication that makes you feel special, that makes you feel like it's like the ego is kind of interacting. So it's really no presence whatsoever. It's nothing that has meaning at the end of the day, doesn't give you meaning, doesn't give you satisfaction, doesn't give you purpose, unless you are very into, okay, I have to lose weight and do this because I need to like take more pictures of myself to be right. And
Yeah, right.
that takes you to a completely different like level of engagement with the world that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're getting to the top of the hour. It was awesome having you on the show. Before we get out of here, did you want to leave our audience with any closing thoughts, and where can they find you at?
Okay, well, my second book is called How Deep is the Wound? Explains what is trauma, what is not trauma. All the pain is valid. All the things need to be understood and attended. We normally take care of the issue and we put the attention in the other, but they told me and they didn't do this and they didn't bring, and right, when in reality when we have a wound we need to take care of our wound. That's the first. And my second book talks about that. So How Deep is the Wound has 60 exercises for people to practice on their own. That it can be it's a good companion for when you have some difficulty from breathing to knowing whether you're a victim, like how to have hope, how to develop mental space, etc. So I recommend my book everywhere, everywhere. But of course, Amazon has them all, right?
Of course.
Of course. What else? My name, Antonieta Contreras, they can find .com is my website. And that if they follow me in any channel, they see my talks, my workshops, my books. I have all sorts of presentations and things like that with this intention to help people feel less damaged than they have been told they are, and finding hope and finding ways to manage the world situation, because yes, the world is not in a good place, and we need to become stronger if we want to continue like engaging in good spirits.
100%. Yeah.
So
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. And we'd like to also thank everybody for tuning in. We'll catch y'all next time.
very happy. Thank you.